As it turns out, it may not have been a strategic retreat by the Russians, and it does seem that the Ukrainians did score major victories to the point where Putin loyalists Kadyrov criticizes Russia's army performance over Ukraine retreat. So this is the Chechen leader, and there's a lot of Chechens within the Russian army, and he demands explanations because during the last round of defeats, apparently Putin was in Moscow celebrating the opening of Europe's biggest Ferris wheels. And of course, this wasn't very good optics. So now the Chechen leader, which is a loyalist to Kremlin, as I mentioned, claimed that if there are no changes in strategy made soon, he's going to go to Moscow and talk to Putin himself. And in diplomacy, this is a very harsh language to take. Now, from what I could gather, a lot of nationalists in Russia are calling for the full mobilization of the army. Now, a lot of journalists here in the West have pointed out that yes, Russia is at war with Ukraine, which theoretically is, but from a legal standpoint, it's not. Because if Russia would officially declare war on Ukraine, it would have legal ramifications. For once, it could mobilize all the men of fighting age. So you would notice a significant increase in the forces that Russia would have to deploy. Secondly, it could also transform Russia's economy from that of peacetime into a centralized wartime economy. Now, obviously, the situation on the ground would change. Ukraine would have to defend itself against a significantly larger force. But secondly, the reason why Russia hasn't done this is that, number one, it's unclear whether or not the Duma would even approve it. And secondly, it would have drastic negative consequences for Russia's economy. You'd be taking the men, which are integrated within the economy and they're producing wealth, and you're putting them on the battlefield, which causes a drain of wealth due to the fact that soldiers have to be outfitted, equipped, as well as fed, provided with ammunition, so on and so forth. So they're now a drain on the economy. And this would be viewed as a desperate maneuver. The fact that Russia would have to officially and formally go to war with a smaller nation like Ukraine would definitely affect its international prestige far more than it has done so already. So the other thing which Western experts are now talking about is whether or not Russia is going to nuke Ukraine. In order to explore this option, we have to discuss the two types of nuclear weapons that are available. There are strategic nuclear weapons, and then there are tactical nuclear weapons. The strategic nuclear weapons have immense destructive capabilities, with the ability of leveling entire cities, if not more. And it's unlikely that Russia is going to use them, because Russia does want to take Ukraine, its natural resources, and its economy, in order to rehabilitate itself after the war. So it has absolutely no interest in governing over a wasteland. However, the other type of nuclear weapons, which are the tactical ones, are more likely to be used. These are nuclear weapons with the ability to destroy small areas such as military bases, infrastructure, as well as heavily fortified positions. The problem is that while the destruction is a lot smaller, there is still the risk of radiation, which can be carried over by wind, which can cause the ground to be infertile for years to come. And furthermore, the main issue is that of escalation. If Russia starts using nukes, then, well, NATO can also supply Ukraine with nukes. It's important to remember that the reason Ukraine doesn't have nukes is due to a contract it signed with both Russia and Ukraine. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Ukraine was the second nation in the world which had the highest number of nukes. And they signed a treaty with both the United States and with Russia to give up those nukes in exchange for Russia and the United States to guarantee Ukraine's national sovereignty. And we see how that went. So it would be ironic beyond belief if Russia would actually use tactical nukes in Ukraine. The response from NATO would, as I mentioned before, probably be arming Ukraine with its own tactical nukes, which would cause a huge escalation within the conflict. So, as rare as it is, I do have to agree with President Biden on this, that it would change the face of war unlike anything since World War II. Because up until now, no nation has dared to cross the Rubicon. Since the end of World War II, no nations have used nukes due to the mutually assured destruction scenario, a scenario which I'm sure still holds today. In other words, if countries started throwing nukes at each other, it would be game over for humanity. Like, that's it. There are no winners, there's only losers. So hopefully, we're not going to see this happening. But it's not in our hands. It's just like we're just spectators here, so we're going to see what happens next. I do wish that Biden was a little bit more harsh in his declaration, because mutually assured destruction only works if you're assured that you're going to get destruction from the opposite side. So he should have said something like, you have nukes, we have nukes, let's not go there, or something in the matter. Just saying don't is kind of, I don't know. That's just me. Let me know what you guys think, though, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.